Welcome to Wake Up and Live with the Arts, the show that showcases and celebrates the diversity of the performing arts and artists in Northeast. The Wake Up and Live's Actor Studio is thrilled to showcase one of its outstanding talent.
Hi, I'm Denise Richmond-Kelley, and I'm your host today for Wake Up and Live with the Arts. And today we have an exciting interview with one of our own. We're going to be talking to Gary Webster. Gary Webster is a 1984 graduate of Kent State. He is an actor and director and an author, and he has written 2 books. One of his books is entitled Tris Speaker and the 1920 Indians, Tragedy to Glory, and his other book is called 721, A History of the 1954 Cleveland Indians. So let's turn to Gary, and Gary, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started with writing books?
Well, I've been interested in writing, Denise, from the time I was in elementary school. It's a gift that I was given, and I've had a chance to use it in many different ways. Now, in writing books, I've written plays, I've written essays, you name it, I've experimented with it if it has to do with writing. And this was the culmination of a lifelong ambition. From the time I was in elementary school, I wanted to have a book published, and it took me a while to get there, but I was able to succeed.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Tris Speaker and the 1920 Indians. How did you come up with that title?
Well, actually, the publisher came up with that title. I searched for quite a while for something that resonated and really didn't come up with anything I liked particularly. McFarland is an academic publisher, and as they pointed out, they like to have their books titled right to the point. That's what the book is about. That's why they gave it the title, Tris Speaker and the 1920 Indians. Tris Speaker was the player-manager, baseball Hall of Famer, and the inspirational, not only just the manager, but the inspirational leader of the team.
Okay. Where did the Indians play during this time?
Well, it's interesting that you would bring that up, because where we are right now at the Rainey Institute on 55th, we are no more than 2 blocks physically away from where League Park was. League Park was at the 66th and Lexington Avenue. It was where 2 streetcar lines converged, which was the only way other than walking to get to the ballpark when it was first built in 1891. The Indians played there until 1947. When we leave here, I am going to drive around what is left of League Park, because that is sacred ground to me, plus the fact that my dad, who instilled his love for baseball in me, grew up 1 block away from League Park on 66th. So that's where I'll be going when we're finished with the taping.
Wow, that's very exciting. Now, what about 721? Tell us a little bit more about that book.
Well, 721 is a book about the 1954 Indians. After I finished the book about the 1920 Indians, who were world champions, but whose story had not been told, 90-some years later, the story had not been told. The 1954 Indians set the American League record for most victories in a season, highest winning percentage. That record still stands, which is how McFarland came up with the title of 721. The record for most wins has been broken twice. The Yankees broke it in 1998, then the Seattle Mariners broke the Yankees record in 2001. But no team has ever had a higher winning percentage in the history of the American League. In fact, Major League Baseball goes back to 1876. Only one team since 1876 has had a higher winning percentage in a single season than the 54 Indians. Now, the problem was the 54 Indians got swept in the World Series, and it's something Cleveland has been trying to forget for the longest time. But next year, 2014, will be the 60-year anniversary, which had nothing to do with me writing the book. I didn't even realize it until after I had finished it. Next year will be 60 years since the 1954 American League champion Indians. And people here should know what this team accomplished. There were 5 Hall of Famers on it. They did set the all-time league record for highest winning percentage. It's not something, yeah, they lost the World Series. They got blown out in 4 straight games. It was embarrassing. I can't dispute that fact, but what these guys accomplished still deserves to be remembered, and I'm hoping that folks will feel the same way and want to check out the book.
And the Indians have a history in terms of diversity.
Yes.
That's unique, and people think about Jackie Robinson, but tell us a little bit about how perhaps that team in 1954 was a bit unique.
Well, sure. If I could just hold up the cover again, if Lester can zoom in here a little. This cover, this is Al Smith, who played left field, Larry Doby, the center fielder, the first African-American player in American League history, the second in Major League history, following Jackie Robinson, who broke in with the Dodgers just a couple of months earlier in 1947. And this is the second baseman, Bobby Avila, one of the earliest Hispanic players in Major League Baseball. So yes, the Indians did have a history of diversity, and it was well represented, as you can see, on the 1954 team.
Yeah, I actually studied African American history, so I'm familiar with the name Larry Doby. But I don't know much about the Indians, and these are two books that I would love to get, and I would love to read and find out more about the Indians. I've certainly been to a game, and I've enjoyed it. But however, where can we find these books?
You can find these at Amazon.com or at BarnesandNoble.com. And in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be making the rounds to the local independent bookstores. Hopefully they will be interested in stocking the book. The publisher doesn't believe in selling their books in brick and mortar bookstores. They think the way to go is the internet, which is all well and good. But if I'm successful, hopefully if you're in the vicinity of Larchmere in the not too distant future, or Coventry, there are fine independent bookstores on both of those streets. James, you and I know about, you know what I'm talking about, Larchmere.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm talking about. I hope I can talk the proprietors into having these books available in their stores. So if you're old-fashioned like me and you like to actually walk in the store, look at the book, hold it in your hand, read it a little before you make a decision. Hopefully they will be available in some local bookstores, but you will find them at Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com.
Gary, I want to thank you for coming on the show today, and thank you for sharing, and also thank you for being the historian on the Cleveland Indians.
My pleasure.
And again, these books can be purchased at Amazon.com and also at Barnes & Noble. And Gary also has a email address.
Yes.
And that's fan1fan2 at oh.rr.com, where he can be reached. So we want to thank you again today. And thank you for joining us at Wake Up and Live with the Arts. And be sure and stay tuned, because there's more to come.